in a world covered by endless water.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard these words over the last 20 years. Mega Man Legends is the first PlayStation game I ever owned, and possibly the one I put the most hours into. Not just because I enjoyed the game so much growing up, but also because I didn't own a memory card for the longest time. So either I had to leave my PlayStation on overnight, or I'd have to restart the game from the beginning every day. But the game was so captivating and fun that I didn't mind starting from scratch anytime I died or had to turn off the PlayStation. Legends was the second spin-off in the Mega Man series after X on the Super Nintendo, and the first game in the series to be completely in 3D. It ditched the side-scrolling, platforming of the first two series, and was instead an action-adventure game, using a cel-shaded 3D look instead of 2D sprites. A bold move, but one that was necessary for the game to stand out in comparison to the two Mega Man games that preceded it, Mega Man 8 and Mega Man X4. It kept the basic premise of a guy in blue armor with an arm cannon, but ditched the level selection for more open-ended gameplay. This allowed players to explore the island in between missions, finding and crafting buster parts for your basic Mega Buster, creating and enhancing your special weapons as opposed to stealing them from bosses, and while not the first Mega Man to have voice acting, it was easily the best out of the three at the time.
Roll! It's still active! The reactor's still running!
Great! What about the refractor?
It's here! It's a big one, too!
All right, now maybe we can finally get some money.
Mega Man, today we finish this!
Hey, Zach! Why must I fight you? We are not enemies!
Shut up! Ah!
No, this isn't happening! There's no reason for me to go on. What am I fighting for?
Combat is fairly simple, helped along with a simplistic lock-on system that points you in an enemy's general direction but lacks a lock-on reticle, and can be a mess if facing many enemies at once. Due to a lack of DualShock support, the game uses L1 and R1 to turn the camera, resulting in the use of tank controls. Admittedly, it hasn't aged the best, but it's still a lot better than Resident Evil's tank controls. Before pressing start, you get an opening crawl that sets up the world of Mega Man Legends. Similar to the Wind Waker, it's set on a world mostly covered in water. People eking out a living on the small islands scattered on the ocean. In order to survive, explorers known as diggers explore ruins to dig up ancient technology, and crystals known as refractors that work as a power source for those living above. It also establishes the legend of the great treasure known as the Mother Lode, allegedly a refractor so big it could power the entire world and make the digger who finds it insanely rich. As the opening finishes, the flying ship we've been watching lands on a tower on the water, beginning the game. Starting a new game, you're treated to a cutscene of our hero Mega Man Walnut standing alone in a dark ruin. I love the music in this scene as it gives it a really creepy vibe, keeping you on edge as you aren't sure what to expect. Grabbing a refractor and escaping like you're Indiana Jones, you're finally given control of Mega Man. The opening dungeon serves as your tutorial to the game, explaining the basic mechanics and controls. It's pretty brief and is only slowed down by Roll stopping to talk to you every few moments. Like the opening scene, I enjoy the music that plays during this level. A nice mix of creepiness and urgency, setting up the mood of being deep underground. After a quick trip through the dungeon, and fighting a large Reaver bot, it'll follow you outside and you'll make your escape back to the future style. Once you board the Flutter, you're properly introduced to your spotter, Roll Casket. Roll is Mega Man's childhood friend and surrogate sister. She serves as mission control while you're in ruins, similar to Aaliyah in X5, and equally as annoying during missions. She also serves as your mechanic, building items and weapons from the things you find in ruins, and even enhancing your weapons. Roll pilots their ship, the Flutter, and like the opening crawl states, shares the goal of other diggers in finding the Mother Lode. And though it isn't touched on all that much in this game, she's also in search of her missing parents. After a brief scene, we're interrupted by the ship's engine overheating and introduced to Roll's grandfather, Barrel. He's a professor and retired digger responsible for raising Roll and Mega Man. Looking at him at first, you might assume he would be the Dr. Light of this series, assisting Mega Man in his digs or building armor upgrades for him. But unfortunately, the old man doesn't really do much in this game, something he lampshades later. Because of the rough shape the Flutter is in, the trio are forced to make a crash landing on the nearby Catalox Island. After assessing the damage to the ship, Barrel will ask you to look around the island. Before running off, you probably noticed this little monkey dancing around. That's Data. He serves as your little helper of sorts, saving your data, healing you, recharging your weapons, and answering questions on where to go or what to do next if you get lost. He also has a much bigger role in the story that I'll talk about later in the video. Soon the police show up to check on you and make sure you're alright. They ask Barrel to leave with them to fill out some immigration forms, and ask that you hang around the shopping arcade till your ID cards are ready. Roll tells you to look for parts for the ship, and off you go. The shopping area definitely gives off mall vibes, especially with the music in the different shops. Only one of them is actually useful though, and that's the junk shop. Here you'll be able to buy buster parts, upgrade your armor, buy some other items to help you in fights. Inside you can ask the woman about ship parts and she'll recommend digging them up instead. And also ask if you could go check on her husband who hasn't returned from the ruins outside town. After a quick trip through the ruins to save his dumbass from robo-noodles, he'll gift you your first special weapon, the mine kit. He'll also give you the broken down support card outside of town in order to create items and move around the island. Once Roll's fixed up the support card, the policeman from earlier shows up to give you your citizen card, also warning that there's pirates in the area. Roll has you go check on Beryl, and once you step into the city, you'll bump into a girl in pink talking with some Lego people. After talking to Beryl and the mayor, head back out to see that same girl being chased by a dog.
Ah! It's a dog!
Swoop in to save her and have her swooning. This is Tronbon. Tron is the first of the Bond family we're introduced to. Like Roll, she's her family's mechanic and engineer, having built the little Lego robots, the Servbots, and all the Bond machines you fight throughout the game. She's feisty and stubborn, your classic anime tsundere, and probably the reason why she represents her series in the Marvel vs. Capcom games. After saving her from a dog by lecturing it about gender equality, Tron develops a small crush on Megaman, causing her to question her feelings for him several times throughout the game. Head back to Roll to tell her everything's okay, just as pirates fly overhead and show everything's not okay. She runs off into town with you giving chase and is stopped by the police. Since they're too inept to do anything about the pirates, it's up to you to stop them. This is the first mission/boss fight of the game. 3 Servbots piloting mechs and holding onto a key that unlocks the gate to the next area. Each Servbot has a different specialty, red having higher attack, blue being fast, and yellow having the most health. They're also flanked by flying enemies overhead, but they aren't too tricky. Keep an eye on who has the key, drop them before they hand it off, and you've won. Once they're out of the way, Tron jumps into the fight with her own mech. She's a bit tougher than the Servbots, shooting off a ground attack that can follow you, using a Gatling gun, and dropping several bombs as she spins around. Circle strafe around her and she'll go down in no time. Just stay close to her though, as if you wander too far, she'll attack in all directions, destroying the town, which is a bit of a headache later. After comically blowing her up, she praises your skills, promising revenge, and flying off. Go through the gate and you're thrown into the next mission, Defend City Hall. This one is extremely annoying, in no small part due to the lock-on mechanic and camera. Several machines are attacking City Hall and the local buildings, being dropped in by other flying mechs. Primarily, you want to focus on the machines attacking City Hall and destroying the 3 mechs dropping in the smaller mechs. Once you've destroyed all the enemies, it's mission complete, and you're introduced to the next member of the Bond family, Bon Bon. Bon is the baby brother of the family, and confuses the ever-living hell out of me. He's supposed to be a baby, but how does that work exactly? He looks like this giant baby mech head. There's no way his mom squeezed that out. It's not confirmed, but generally agreed upon that inside that giant head is an actual baby piloting it. Though that raises more questions as to how he's smart enough to do that, or why his older siblings would irresponsibly let him control a mech in combat. Whatever, don't think too hard on it. He's a step up in difficulty over his sister, attacking you with his pacifier, bottle rockets, or just smashing you between his hands. Circle strafe around him and avoid getting hit by his rockets and put that baby to bed. Once defeated, he'll be carried off by the Servbots and we're treated to a cutscene of Teasel, the oldest of the Bond family, watching the news and finding out you beat his siblings.
What the heck happened to Tron and Bond? They should have been back by now. Oh, those 2! No, I told them they were in charge, so I won't worry. I'll let them take care of it themselves. Hey, look at the clock! It's almost time for my favorite show! I almost missed it!
Next story. City Hall was attacked by a mysterious group of assailants this afternoon, but their offensive was beaten back by an equally mysterious young boy, pictured here on screen.
Rounding out Mega Man Legend's own version of Team Rocket is the eldest son and leader of the Bond family, Teaselbond. He's hot-headed and emotional, acting over the top during cutscenes and dialogue. While his sister serves as the tech genius and his younger brother as the muscle, Teasel is the strategist, being the one who planned out the attack on Cadillac's island. As you beat him and his family over and over throughout the game, he develops a level of respect and rivalry with Megaman. After checking in on the mayor and Barrel, you'll get the B-Class Digger's license that will let you enter more ruins. Head north and work your way through more of the Bond's family's forces, finding out that the police are still pretty useless, and also finding Megaman's iconic blue helmet in the trash. Fight your way through the next area and come to the clearing to face off with Teasel. Teasel is piloting a massive digging machine called the Marl Wolf, and said screw it when it comes to getting the gate key, hoping to dig his way down instead. His fight starts you off on the ground, needing you to climb higher in order to shoot at the hatch on the back of his machine. If you picked up the cannon kit right before this, it's not tough honestly, though his homing attacks can be tough to read and dodge at times. Climb your way out of the hole and you'll fast travel back to City Hall. The mayor thanks you for saving the day again, upgrades your digger's license, gives you permission to enter the subgates, and now can visit Uptown and Old City. Before you go though, you have a chance to start the first side quest of the game, rebuilding the city. Remember when I brought up being careful in your fight with Tron? This is why. Depending on how well you did in those fights, you'll need to donate certain amounts of money in order to rebuild. In particular, you'll want to make sure you fixed up the police station as it will unlock a few side quests later on. After the mayor's done extorting you, call roll and head for the Garden Woods subgate. Like before, you'll have to make your way through a bunch of enemies before making it to the gate, but this time roll helps by driving around really slow and sometimes running you over. After the servbots are dealt with, she'll ram through the fence blocking the gate and down you go again. Unlike the basic ruins that share the same generic look, each of the gates have a unique look and atmosphere, similar to dungeons in The Legend of Zelda. The gate itself is a bit of a letdown though, as there's no boss in this area and despite introducing some new Reaverbots, isn't all that difficult. You do get a little conveyor belt puzzle where you have to break open a treasure chest to get one of the keys, but it's fairly straightforward. Once you got all the keys, scoop up the cheat code for moon jumping, grab the refractor, and head back outside. Next stop, we're heading to Uptown. Uptown has a great upbeat track, giving off an island resort vibe. Here you can find the Cadillac's TV station where you can compete in some minigames, a hospital, a museum, and your next destination, the boat dock. Before doing that though, side quest time! On the way to the boat dock you'll have spotted a woman painting a portrait of the hospital. Unfortunately, she needs red paint, or something like it to finish up. Head back to the shopping area, head into the women's boutique, and the lady behind the counter will give you her used lipstick. And with that, the painting is done and the museum is open. The woman you helped works as the curator there on the second floor. Unfortunately, it's pretty empty and she asks you to donate anything you find underground. I didn't bring this up before, but when you're in ruins, you'll occasionally find holes in the wall. Inside them you'll find extra zenny, items, or antiques you can donate. You won't get anything right away, but once you've donated all 8 items, you'll be given the Prism Crystal, an item necessary for crafting the strongest weapon in the game, the Shining Laser. Once you're done taking in the culture of the island, and getting a bit of foreshadowing, head to the boat dock. Once you get past trying to figure out why Dr. Wily owns a boat shop thousands of years in the future after he would have realistically died in his own series, he tells you that all the boats have been stolen. He's got one left though, but it's broken. Time to call roll. We put that refractor we found in the last gate to good use, fix the boat, and head off for the next gate. Before we make it to the gate, we're cut off by the bonds. This mission can be extremely annoying as you have to defend roll in the boat while constantly being attacked from all sides. Again, it's made worse by the lock-on system and the camera, making it tough at times to shoot projectiles before they hit the boat. After a tiresome 5 minutes of driving around, the bonds will reveal themselves piloting a giant purple frog robot, the Balkangorot. Sorry, no idea how to pronounce that. You'll have a choice to fight them immediately or run back to the boathouse and come back later. I suggest leaving and coming back, mainly because if you took too much damage from the last encounter, you could end up losing immediately to the bonds, forcing you to do the last encounter all over again. Heal up, save, and then get back in there. You won't be able to hurt them at first, only defending yourself by shooting down the missiles they fire at you. After being chased through a canal and into a more open area, the fight will start properly. Like before, you'll be defending the ship, with rolls circling around the bonds as they continue firing homing missiles and shooting off bombs. You'll have to target their arms and the cannons on the back before they resort to using an energy cannon to try and sink you. This finally makes them vulnerable, so fire away and sink them instead. Once that drawn out fight is done, you can finally head into the subgate. This subgate is a lot bigger than the one in Garden Woods, but it still maintains the creepy atmosphere. Like before, you're tasked with finding the 3 starter keys in order to free the refractor at the end of the level. As you explore the ruins, you'll find the old hover jets allowing you to jet around a level as opposed to just running, which, while letting you move faster, can be a pain to control and turn at times. This area actually felt scary as a kid. The large open area, the dripping water on the walls, and worst of all those invisible assholes running around. They're the absolute worst. They can phase in and out of sight, can jump just as high as you, and tend to follow you around the area. Once you've scooped up all the keys, head past the Gator exhibit, and a weirdly placed gold cylinder, you can claim your next refractor. Spoilers, you set off a trap and activate the boss Reaverbot in the last room. He's not too tough, only diving after you and then ground pounding the room to cause a shockwave. His only vulnerable spot is his head, and because of how big he is, the lock-on can be a pain. Just jump and shoot, jump out of the way when he lunges at you, and blow the golden bastard to bits. Leave the subgate, watch a cutscene of the Bonds planning to ambush you at the main gate, and use your new refractor to finally fix the flutter. When you're ready, talk to Roll and fly towards the closer's subgate. This gate doesn't have a refractor inside, instead having a console that activates the main gate. Side note, I love Megaman reading the information on the PC here. I don't know if it was intentional or if the VA had trouble reading himself because he was so young, but the way he struggles to read big words and sounds them out is so endearing.
I don't see any switches, but there's some writing here. Let's see. It says Operations Room 2. Emergency system activation requires direct password input from Eden or the insertion of 3 level 2 or higher prototype Anthro unit ID cards.
You know the deal by now. Go find the 3 keys, or ID cards this time, loot and blow up Reaverbots, and fight a boss at the end. One thing of note is it introduces the shield type Reaverbot, which are basically the Sniper Joes of this game. Not difficult really, just there to slow you down. Shoot them when they peek from their shields, or just jump over them. Once you turn on the generator, head down the elevator and get ready to fight the wolf pack. The boss, or bosses in this case, can be a bit tricky as they're constantly running after you, can lunge at you, or stop to spit fire. Because they're constantly moving, it's best to whittle them away with the Buster, using the tried and true Circle Strafe. Once it's down to 1, keep your distance, and then blast away with the cannon arm or homing missiles, and it's done. Head back up to use the keys and be treated to a cutscene of the main gate activating. Talk to Roll on the flutter, save, and head off towards the main gate. Before you can get there though, just like they planned, the Bonds ambush you before you make it to the gate. Similar to the lake fight, this one comes in stages and requires you to defend the flutter along with keeping your own health okay. First you'll go up against the usual flying machines, then go up against their main ship, the Gazelle Shaft, and finally Tron piloting the Focke-Wulf. The first 2 stages aren't too bad, the Focke-Wulf on the other hand is a different story. She'll circle around the flutter, firing homing missiles and using your own circle strafe against you. She'll swoop past to shoot you and hover above the flutter to completely unload on it. Tron can be tough to hit in this fight, so you have to judge your shots properly when she's circling around you. Your best bet to hit her is when she stops to hover above the flutter. Once you've murdered them and grieved for about 2 seconds, you can finally head for the main gate. But first...
Hey! What do you think you're doing?
Whoops.
Get out of here now! Next time, knock before opening the door.
Sorry, Roll.
Once you're ready, head for the main gate, but stop to adopt this cat on the way. Super important, or else you'll get the bad ending. The main gate is the most straightforward dungeon so far, just a spiral hallway going down. Every other hall guarded by the shield Reaverbots. You'll find a console that will activate the sub-cities, and once again retrieve 3 keys in order to open the central gate. Have a quick rematch with the Wolfpack, who are basically mid-bosses this time. Take the elevator into Old City, head into the nearby Warehouse 88, and surprise! The Bonds were alive after all. We didn't commit murder. Yay! Upset you ruined their pizza time, they activate their strongest machine, Bruno. Bruno is brutal, a behemoth who incorporates all the weapons from the previous machines you fought. He slowly lumbers through the area demolishing buildings, firing off huge homing energy attacks, homing missiles, his shoulders using Gatling guns, and his feet firing off bombs. His attacks hit hard, and he can easily destroy you if you get too close or don't use cover. This was the one and only time I died while recording gameplay for this video. Your best bet is to get behind him, carefully aiming your shots and using the building for cover to get around him again. You can try aiming for his weapons to disable them, but you can make do with cover. Once Bruno is defeated, Teasel decides to bury the hatchet, admitting that you bested him and his family once and for all. Promising to leave you alone, the trio walk away into the sunset. Or not, as Teasel stops within earshot of you to reveal that once you've found the treasure, they'll just swoop in and steal it. They really don't learn. Now that you've dealt with them, finally head for the sub-cities. The first one conveniently hidden where the Bruno fight started in the warehouse. The sub-cities, while having an interesting design, are pretty disappointing in comparison to the gates, all three having the same copy-paste look and the sole goal of destroying all the Reaver bots in order to spawn the key needed. They basically took the find 3 keys in a dungeon template they've used all game and added extra steps. Oh well, destroy the Reaver bots, collect the keys, and destroy a giant caterpillar Reaver bot boss, and prepare for the final battle. Before heading off to the main gate though, now's a good time to wrap up and tackle any side quests you might have lingering around. Pretty much all of them give you a useful item you can use to build a new weapon or buster part, so they're worth doing. First, let's go to the hospital in Uptown. There you'll meet a little wheelchair-bound girl named Ira. She wants to travel and see the world, but can't cause, you know, wheelchair. Talking to the nurses, you find out that they could heal her if they had better equipment. Talk to the mayor, pony up the cash, and like a TV evangelist, you cure her with the power of money. She'll thank you for this miracle with the flower pearl. Next, head over to the TV station. Here you can compete in one of 3 different game shows. One where you commit animal abuse, another where you shoot balloons, and finally a time trial racing game. The first 2 aren't too bad, but man, the racing one is an absolute chore, and no small part due to the controls of the hoverjet. There's no special trick here to make it easier, you just gotta get good. If you manage to beat all the ranks for each game, you'll get the Zet Saber, Mystic Orb, Music Box, Omni Unit, and finally, the Giant Horn. This next one comes in multiple stages, and takes some time in between each stage. Head over to Yas Plains, near where you fought Teasel the first time, and look for a house hidden off near the right. Here you'll find Jim and his gang, the kids you saw at the shopping area at the beginning of the game. They're building a secret hideout and need your help, but first they'll ask you for a pick and later a saw. Once it's finished, they'll ask you to find a few more things. Once that's done, your reward will be the Moorwolf Shell, X-Buster, Broken Circuits, and Old Heater. Next, head to the shopping area and talk to the food stand owner who's worried about his pregnant wife. Look for her on a path to the carbon subgate and find her doubled over a wall going into labor. Get her to the hospital and you'll receive the sunlight. Next, let's go help the inspector. Our mission is to stop an accidental bomb plot. Head to downtown and talk to NPCs to look for the bombs. This mission's timed, so if you take too long, the bombs will blow up a building. Once you're finished, return to the inspector and help a man find the money he lost in downtown. Since I'm the one fighting the Sky Pirates, why can't these lazy assholes do these missions themselves? Whatever, almost done. Head up to the Flutter and check the news on the TV to find out about a bank robbery. Make your way over to downtown and join in the police chase, embarrassing the police one last time by stopping the robbers. Turn in the briefcase they dropped, get a cut of the money, and you've wrapped up the side quests. They're pretty brief, but I enjoyed the side quests in this game. They flesh out the NPCs a bit, aren't the generic fetch quests of most games, and not counting the game shows, are pretty quick and easy to finish. Build any weapons you still need, grind to enhance them, and install the best buster parts, and get ready for the final battle as you head back down to the main gate and unlock the central gate. Mega Man gets a bad feeling as he opens the final door, and we're introduced to Mega Man Juno. Juno gives us some exposition, revealing some of Mega Man's backstory. That he's not really Mega Man Walnut, but Mega Man Trigger. He explains that Trigger is a purifier unit, in Japanese, a regular hunter, essentially serving the same role Mega Man X does in his own series of hunting down rogue units. He mentions that you don't look the same as you used to, and quickly picks up that you've lost your memory somehow. He explains he's a bureaucratic model, in charge of watching over the humans on the island, referring to them as carbons, and that he must cull the island when the population exceeds a certain amount. All this can be a bit confusing as most of the context is given in the second game, but I'll avoid talking about that for now. Juno himself is very robotic and emotionless, not actively evil nor taking any pleasure in wanting to kill everyone on the island, and doing so because it's his job. He traps Mega Man and heads off to activate Eden. The Bonds overhear everything and free him so he can stop Juno's plan. A quick run through some Reaver bots, you'll bump into Data to save your progress one last time before the final battle. Asking him a few questions, he lets on that he knows a little more than you'd expect, stating you should be more powerful than Juno and skirting the question of what you really are. Head through the gate to find Juno has already activated Eden, the giant monolith falling out of orbit carrying thousands of units to purify the island. With 5 minutes left before it lands, you face off in the final battle. Juno is the hardest boss in the game, having 2 forms, the second with a ton of health. He hits hard, able to drain your health fast if you don't have the best armor, and is constantly moving around the arena, making him hard to hit and forcing you to move constantly. He lunges at you before disappearing, fires lasers in a circle around him, shoots 2 beams from his arms as they follow you, stomps on the ground to cause a shockwave, and has a more drawn out version of the stomp as well. Now if you spent the time and money to upgrade it, you could just cheese the fight using the shining laser. But where's the fun in that? Let's fight him fair and square. Because of his constant movement, it's hard to get a moment where you can stop and use a special weapon on him, so stick to the ever useful Circle Strafe. His defenses are high, so even with the Buster's attack maxed out, he'll soak up a lot of hits before he goes down. Once you beat his first form, his body explodes and he pulls a Sigma, merging his head with a large Reaverbot body embedded in the wall. Juno's moves and his personality become more aggressive in this form. He'll charge at you fast, jump around several times in a row, swipe at you with a spread of fire, and drop a DBZ-style death ball at you. At about half health, he'll produce a shockwave and throw an attack in the air before firing several lasers from above chasing you. Keep circle strafing, heal up if you need to, and you've beaten him. Despite winning, Juno was still successful in stalling you, activating Eden and backing up his Data as his body explodes. All is lost. Until Data jumps in, overriding the system to give Mega Man control and deleting Juno's backup too. With that, Eden returns to orbit, saving the people of the island. Data explains that he's basically a backup disk for Mega Man, having stored his memories there to avoid being scanned by Mother. Data doesn't tell you everything though, teasing that he will in the future, which is followed up on in the sequel. After getting a transmission from Barrel and Roll, you head up back to the surface. The mayor thanks you for everything you've done, and you'll be given the chance to head back into town to say goodbye to everyone you've met throughout the game. Once you've said your goodbyes, talk to Roll, and take off, finally completing the game. Stick around the closing credits, and you'll get a scene of the Bonds having stolen the giant refractor that you saw in the main gate, and the game ends, giving you the choice to play the game again in hard mode. And that was Mega Man Legends. After more than 2 decades, it still stands the test of time. The cel-shaded art style has aged well compared to other 3D games of the time. The gameplay, while a little clunky, is still very serviceable. It's a fun adventure game with a nice twist and mystery introduced at the end. The characters are endearing and memorable, helped along with some decent voice acting for the time. The game itself is brief. While this run took me just under 7 hours, I probably could have beaten it in 5 if I didn't stop to grind, which is on average if not longer than most Mega Man games. Needless to say, all these factors are why it's gone on to be such a cult classic, even if it wasn't the highest selling. If you made it to the end, thank you for sitting through this video. This is technically my first video, but I decided to delist the original version and re-upload it to tweak the audio and some visuals. I loved Legends growing up, so I wanted to do my best when talking about it. But let me know what you guys think. Did you enjoy the video? Are you a big fan of Legends like I am? What kind of series would you like to see me talk about in the future? You're probably sick of hearing it, but if you enjoyed the video and want to see more, I would greatly appreciate it if you liked, comment down below, and subscribed. I'm FuzzySlippers, thank you for your time, and see you soon.